Strikes, fellas.
Strikes.
Talk about strikes, Kelvin MacKenzie?
Good idea.
You're a big fan of strikers, aren't you? You're incredibly supportive of them. They have your full backing.
Yeah, they have none. They have none of my backing. They're using our pain collectively to increase their pay. They are in unique positions to do that. So you decide to go on strike, apart from there being probably a round of applause by the management. Nobody cares, do they? Nobody cares.
You're joking. I'm hosting 2 shows a day at the moment. Who else would be willing to work that hard?
Well, clearly you want that bloke from the RMT representing you. But the truth about the matter, it is massively painful. We have doctors going on strike. I see those guys... The London Underground are going on strike on March 15, so it coincides with the budget. We have these nurse negotiations which are now going to open up. We have border force. Anybody going through? My brother came in from the Caribbean somewhere, went through Heathrow. He shot through Heathrow in about 34 seconds, right, without border force. So
the military stepped in.
So everything was working. I want us to tough everybody out. We've now seen Citigroup have announced tonight what they think inflation will look like in our country. 5% in July, 2% in November.
Yeah.
Because of the collapse of energy prices. I urge... All right, I may not be the world's greatest fan of Sunak. I urge him now, he's gone on this path, just stay with this. And the RMT can still be out on strike in November, as far as I'm concerned. When we went through COVID, we suddenly discovered that nobody can kill us in the way that they thought they could before. I'm old enough to believe that the idea when trains went out was an absolute disaster for the country. Now, oh, really, not running today? Yeah. Oh, we'll do something else.
From home, absolutely. Go on, Aaron, what do you think?
Well, I think, look, public servants in this country, let's start with nurses. You're looking at the end of next year, the average nurse will be 20% poorer off than they would have been in 2010. We've got a shortage in this country of 47,000 nurses. 3 and 4 shifts are short-staffed because you can't recruit people when they're not being paid enough. So I think clearly with nurses, I think even a right-wing government, frankly, would be sensible enough to give them a decent pay rise, at least in line with inflation. Have to say as well, we had this news yesterday, the budget actually has brought in 30 billion more than we realised. So actually, a lot of these pay rises can be paid for without going into further spending. So I think NHS, we absolutely have to do it. I think teachers makes perfect sense. But the fundamental thing for me is walk down a high street. You know, again, I live in Portsmouth. Or I go to see my dad in Bournemouth.
Are you getting paid to say that, by the way?
Oh, yeah. Portsmouth Tourist, well, that's it.
Portsmouth Tourist Association.
No, but it's an important
place.
It's an important point, which is high streets across this country have been battered. And it's because people don't have money in their pockets.
Yeah.
And if you're saying that people have to get permanently poorer and pay rises can't keep up with inflation year after year after year after year, my dad's a taxi driver. If people aren't getting pay rises in line with inflation, they're less likely to take a taxi. So it's sensible economics to at least see pay in line with inflation.
Do you know have you seen that the holiday companies announced record bookings higher than the pandemic? My high street completely rammed.
Yeah.
You're in Weybridge.
Yes.
Every single coffee house.
That has the most millionaires in the country, though, Kelvin.
Well,
that's not typical.
I'm pleased to be one of them.
Well, I'm sure you are.
I'm trying to avoid being skinned.
I'm sure you are, but that's not the average person watching this.
Seriously, the high street's completely packed. Everybody's going on holiday. You're going to see car sales are going to uptick dramatically. The idea that this is a totally skinned nation is completely wrong.
I've been having those same observations. I know what you mean. You go in, the queue out of Tesco's tonight was like round the block. I think everyone's queuing so they can get more than one cucumber at a time, or the people are stockpiling peppers all of a sudden. And I keep looking, and the restaurants that I know of, some of them have been, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, we're getting loads of bookings. And I'm like, where's everyone getting their money from? Is it, because I know that things are more expensive, our energy bills are crippling. Do you think people are just going into debt, Aaron? Are people just getting lots of stuff on credit card at the moment?
I think a big part of it is...
Payments. Look at mortgage payments.
Oh, my God.
Crazy.
I think a big part of it is, after COVID, people probably want to enjoy life a bit more. So I don't know the stuff about holidays. Probably people have deferred holidays. I think that's perfectly plausible. But generally speaking, I mean, I grew up in the 90s, early 90s.
Was it?
No, Bournemouth. But the point was, these high streets, they were great places. Yeah. There were shops, they were exciting places to be.
Yeah.
Now, frankly, they look like they've been battered by the the Luftwaffe, right? They look like they've genuinely been attacked by people.
Yeah, I was down there at Brighton at the weekend and I was shocked at the state of that.
OK, well, let me just put in one for the Weybridge High Street Association to say, actually, a lot of shops have shut and new shops have taken over. And do you know what? They've gone up market, not down market. I am surprised about that.
In Weybridge?
Yes. Well, I can only...
It's not Rochdale or Carlisle or Exeter.
Well, in Chiswick, which is supposed to be quite posh, they closed the McDonald's and opened a Poundland.
There you go.
It's not happening everywhere, you see.
Cost of living crisis.
I think, but anyway, getting back to the important point, I really seriously hope that the government hang on. We've been through some painful times. Inflation is going to go down. Deals are to be done with these people. I want them to be done. None of us are going to get inflation-proof pay rises. That's for the birds, unless we want to have inflation for 1,000 years.